there are many of our people who are thinking more deeply and more broadly, looking at it as it actually is, and are beginning to see it more in the international context and the relation that it has with the African struggle, a human rights struggle, or the struggle for human rights. And as such, we can then take it into the United Nations.
And bring about the freedom of these people by any means necessary.
Once again, my name is Frank Mauba. We break a greeting from this great organization called WCC. So this recording actually is going to focus mainly on Malcolm X and other story within the article. So we have come out with the article, actually is on our website there, but we're trying to also come out with the video to make it more convenient to our follower and also for our people. So I'm going to just read quickly, okay, because of time. So, to no surprise, testimony suggests that the New York Police Department was behind the assassination of Malcolm X. It reads, Fred Hampton name has been circulating a lot lately. Earlier this month, a biopic about his life was released in which it detailed his rise and his fall due from a betrayal of one of his fellow brother, William O'Neill. William O'Neill was head of security for the Black Panther Party, Chicago branch, in which Hampton was chair. On the night of December 4th, 1969, Hampton was assassinated by Chicago police in a raid. O'Neill allegedly drugs a drink so that the chairman would not wake up and the raid could be carried out. Even before the demise of the great Hampton, document of instigation from the Federal Bureau of Investigation was released. Letter of threat to rival organization, number killings, members, names callings, and more were tactics used for the movement to destroy itself. This plan was called Contra-Pro. FBI head J. Edgar Hoover is criticized for his divide in order to provide the rise of the Black Messiah. However, Hoover days go all the way back to Marcus Garvey, also the Nation of Islam, Soften Christian Leadership Conference, and Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee were all impacted by the tragic and racist Hoover. Now, the last time someone I read, it says that in the article that just how Adolf Hitler was to the Jewish, it is or was in the same way J.A. Hoover was to Black people or African people. So J.A. Hoover was the Adolf Hitler for African people or Black people. Now, let's continue, okay? Now, here is what, when you heard a journalist, as it has been said from the past, that one journalist asked J.A. Hoover about what was the biggest threat or what was a threat to the United States or to America. And as we have learned over the year that his response was the bigger threat to the United States or to America was Negro unity. So when you heard or somewhere you have read and you heard that the white supremacy or the FBI or the CIA or the American government refer to Malcolm X as an extremist, these are some of the reasons why they refer to him at that time as an extremist. And even up to now, revolutionary people like Malcolm X are still seen in the eyes of the United States government or the FBI or the CIA as an extremist. Now, with the uttermost respect to those in the civil rights era, Malcolm X arguably was the biggest threat. He led the Nation of Islam in 1964, and in the same year, traveled to many countries, both in the Middle East and also in Africa. He attended the 1964 Organization of African Unity Summit in Cairo, Egypt. The inspiration of the event led him to start the Organization of African American Unity in America as an offspring of the Affirmation. Nkrumah, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Gambia Abdul Nasser, W.E.B. Du Bois, among others, were a few of many he met in his Pan-African journey. Now, let's take a few steps back. When you heard people telling Malcolm X was an extremist, these are some of the reasons. Because when he traveled to the Middle East and to other parts of the world, and also to his continent, the African continent, yes, I said the African continent, right? When he traveled there, he was inspired by the unity. He was inspired by those he met, people like W.E.B. Du Bois, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and many others, and African leaders, revolutionary. And he brought that inspiration back to his people in America. And due to that, he founded the African American Unity, just like the Organization African Unity. On January 25th, 2011, a former black New York police officer named Raymond Hood wrote on a deathbed letter of confession implying a role in the demise of numerous black movement. So this shouldn't be a surprise to you, right? Many revolutionary leaders in the 60s in Africa, African leaders, presidents, that were all assassinated. It was in the same way in the 60s, at that time within the United States, many revolutionary leaders were assassinated. Even people who were not revolutionary, but who put groups together. And their movement led to some sort of encouragement. Their singing led to some sort of encouragement and unity among African people. Some of them got assassinated as well. All right, let's continue. In the letter, he confessed that the authorities in his department have set up security of Malcolm X so that he would not be present, so that they would not be present for his assassination. Then, once the assassination took place, Thomas Johnson was framed on Wood's behalf, according to the letter, according to the testimony of the police officer at that time that was part of the assassination of Malcolm X. So that is not a surprise, right? We always have an informer. We always have an agent among us. And those agents are our own people, our own brothers and sisters. When this article came out, there were little reports from CNN, NBC, or Fox News about this development. For years, the Nation of Islam was used as smokescreen in Malcolm X killing. Jane Roberts was also an undercover officer who was at the Audubon Ballroom on February 1st, 1965, that led to Malcolm X's murder. Now, what we as people have we learned from this? This is what I'm going to tell you. I know you have learned other stuff as you have read on your own, as you have tried to put things into perspective on your own. You have come to some sort of understanding, right? But let me give you also, in addition to what you already have. We have learned that white supremacy will go to any length to destroy anyone or anything that is a threat to their establishment. That was one reason they call Malcolm X an extremist, because he has traveled to Africa and brought those knowledge that he acquired to his people here to unite his people. And that is why J.A. Hooker said Negro unity was a threat. So that's why Malcolm X was seen as an extremist, because of the ideology that he had to unite black people or African people in the diaspora that will lead to the enhancements of unity along with the other people, other African on the African continent and around the world. Which is why it is frustrating today to see people go to the internet and trail on one another over a black issue. We are repeating history when we engage in Twitter beef, YouTube war, and more due to our own ego. We have to stop. Because by we fighting among ourselves and destroying each other, it is a victory to white supremacy. It is a victory to the imperialists. It is a victory to the capitalists. It is a victory to the neo-colonialists. It is a victory for them, while it is a defeat for us. This revolution is shocking to many of us who have studied this tragic along with racism in the United States, as people call it, or the United States of America. So we are not breaking any news by reporting this story. It is more of a reminder of the beasts we are dealing with. When black men and black women are gunned down by police, by the United States police officers as well, most often time, they disparage the victims by funding or diets or troubling images on social media to justify the crime and let the perpetrator go unpunished. Confusion is the main source behind this system, both in or contemporary and new. We cannot underestimate anything because they have shown they will use the smallest few to take us down. We have to stop falling for the bait. Before I continue, let me say this. If you are a black leader in our time, and you are afraid to be a revolutionary, this is our advice to you. Please do not be an agent or an informer for the oppressor, for the FBI, for the CIA, for the neo-colonialist, for the capitalist to come against your own people, for the liberation of you, your generation to come. If you can help, please don't be an informer. The legacy of Malcolm X, or the legacy of many other revolutionaries like Malcolm X, lies. Life will never be forgotten. Whether or not he or they will ever receive justice, will be determined. But what we can do is to learn from these experiences as African people, as Black people. Organize and study as much attention to detail. That is what we need to do. We need to organize and study as much to pay attention to more detail as possible. Do not think for 1 second that informants are things from the past. They are still behavior or things in the present. Bourgeoisie are still in our mix. Puppets are still in our mix. But even as suspects, they are still being used today to keep us oppressed, to keep us being victim or victimized, to keep us underprivileged, to keep us dependent in order for them to receive crumb. But even as suspects, again, confusion is what make counterpro successful. Confusion among us is what make them successful. If it ever get to a point we use that word too lightly, we will never come together, and white supremacy will win again. But I trust my people. I trust we as Black, we as African people. We will not let that happen. We are strong and stronger than ever before. We are wise and wiser than ever before. The time is now. What we need to do is to rethink in our thoughts of unity, of self-determination, as to how we can maintain our unity and evolve agent or informant or puppet or bourgeoisie. Once again, my name is Frank. Join this organization or any other organization as we fight for our unity, for our existence, for our dignity, for what belongs to us. Our right belongs to us, not anyone. Thanks.